Welcome back, persistent hikers, to glimpses of our California parks. Today, we will visit the central coastal region of our California parks, encompassing 55 of over 400 diverse public, state, and federal parks and their related units located within our Golden State. Hearst Castle National Historical Monument is a 127-acre tour-only park maintained by the California State Park System. Located within San Luis Obispo County, 35 miles north of the city of San Luis Obispo, this park unit was established in 1957 to protect the Hearst Castle estate and the world-renowned art collection of the farmer publishing tycoon Randolph Hearst. Visitors can only access the castle by taking one of several 60-minute walking tours offered, plus a 15-minute bus ride to and from the hilltop. Although there is a special handicap tour offered, most entail considerable walking and stair climbing. But don't let that deter you. With the frequent stops made by the informative tour guides, you will have sufficient time to recover from the last stairwell. At least that was my tour experience. Even though there are a few tight stairwells, the park system did a great job covering the original inside cement stairs with a state-of-the-art anti-grip material. Keep in mind that these tours move at a brisk pace, and you have to keep up. To me, the hour-long tours were just the right amount of time needed to check out a section of the castle and to receive a glimpse into the life and times of an extraordinary man. Even with my weak knees, I took both an AM and PM tour the same day and felt okay when done. Exhausted, but okay. Because I'm hardly qualified to describe the castle's architecture or art pieces you'll see during the tour, I have decided to tell you about William himself, while you sit back and observe my images of his Casa Grande and his world-renowned art collection. Hearst formerly named the estate the Enchanted Hill. Leaving the visitor center, we travel by bus up the private Hearst Castle Road, through the existing Hearst Ranch, passing by some of the surviving zoo animals, zebras and mountain goats. We finally arrive at the main entrance of the castle. There, our group joins a tour guide who walks us through the scenic castle grounds. We view the Neptune pool, travel in and out of the Casa Grande structure, go up and down the many steps, view inside private rooms, witnessing art and antiquities at every turn. The tour concluded at the awe-inspiring indoor Roman pool, after which we reboarded our bus for the trip back to the visitor center, where we watched a movie entitled Hearst Castle Building the Dream. Don't miss this film. It's well worth the 40 minutes, and you'll learn to appreciate the architect, Julia Morgan, and her dedication to building the Hearst Castle. You might find this strange, but I became more interested in the man himself, William Randolph Hearst, than his castle or his impressive art collection. Here was an individual with enough inheritance to live amongst the wealthy for the rest of his life. I wanted to know What motivated this man to continue striving for personal success, becoming a self-made VIP on his own? Who was he, really? This newspaper tycoon, this savvy businessman, this successful publisher, this movie producer, this politician, this avid collector of European antiquities, a man who built a castle on a hillside overlooking a massive cattle ranch and the Pacific Ocean, a family man who openly retained a mistress, a man with huge ambitions, inflexible will, and inexhaustible energy, a man marred in mystery, contempt, and intrigue. Our story begins with his family, George Hearst and Phoebe Apperson Hearst. In 1850, a young Missourian man named George Hearst, a man with geological and prospecting experience, came to California during the gold rush. He staked several claims throughout the West, 3 of which became the largest mining discoveries in America. The Comstock Lode Silver Mine in Nevada, the Homestake Gold Mine in South Dakota, and the Anaconda Copper Mine in Montana. In time, his mineral investments made him wealthy. He invested his profits into land for ranching and began acquiring coastal land that would become the Hearst Ranch, where he began raising cattle. Observing the gold rush bringing in more people, he anticipated the need for additional food. He became well known and was elected a U.S. Senator in 1886. He and his wife Phoebe had only one son, William Randolph, who enjoyed spending time at the coastal ranch. When his father died in 1891, his mother Phoebe inherited the ranch. In 1919, his mother died, and William inherited the Hearst property and all its assets. Born with a golden spoon in his mouth instead of a silver one, Randolph was set for life. With the large inheritance, the cattle ranch, and his father's good name, he could easily hire someone to manage his assets while living the good life. As tempting as that might have been for a normal inheritor, it didn't fit the narrative of an overachiever like Randolph. Watching his father's successful enterprises had inspired him to achieve success on his own, make a name for himself. It all began when a young Randolph showed an interest in his father's failing newspaper acquisition. George Hearst had acquired the struggling San Francisco Examiner a few years earlier, strictly for political reasons. Randolph had become enticed with the written word and the power behind its control. This was a chance to prove his worth. In 1887, at the age of 24, he was given control of the struggling paper. Seizing the initiative, Randolph worked tirelessly to remake the paper into a blend of reformist investigative reporting and lured sensationalism. Within 2 years, it was again profitable and growing in subscriptions. He soon became a successful newspaper publisher, pulling in fresh talent wherever he found it. Randolph had found his purpose, and nothing was going to stop his ambitious drive to prove his worth. His influence grew, and so did the paper's subscriptions. A mere 8 years after taking control of the Examiner, in 1895, he purchased the New York Morning Journal. Following the same format he had used with the Examiner, he hired the best writers he could find and brought that New York paper to new heights of readership. His interests moved from local events to national. Soon after, world events began to interest him. It was about then that Randolph understood the awesome potentiality of print and a newspaper's ability to influence event outcomes. More influence than even a politician. Even back then, those who controlled the news reporting wielded exceptional power. If I had to guess, that was the moment Randolph Hearst's simple ambitions shifted into overdrive. Through exaggerated reportage, Hearst's newspapers whipped up public sentiment against Spain that some say actually helped cause the Spanish-American War of 1898. Hearst continued to dabble in politics and supported and aligned with presidential candidates. In 1903 through 07, he served rather inactively in the U.S. House of Representatives. He ran for mayor of New York City and even governor of New York. All along, Hearst continued vilifying the British Empire in his papers and opposed the U.S. entry into World War I. Even with his political leanings, his newspaper solicitations grew, his messages grew, his influence grew, and his name became important to powerful people. By 1925, Hearst had established or acquired newspapers in every section of the U.S., as well as several magazines. He began publishing books of fiction. He even produced motion pictures featuring the actress Marion Davies, his mistress for more than 30 years. Before criticizing Marion and their open relationship, read Captain of Her Soul, The Life of Marion Davies by Laura Gabriel. Marion wasn't some struggling Hollywood bimbo, but a successful actress, producer, screenwriter, and philanthropist who fell in love with the man, not his money. As for the castle, it was after the death of his mother in 1919 that he embarked on his project to build a grandiose castle on a hillside, overlooking his 240,000-acre ranch in San Simeon. He would furnish this residence complex with his vast collection of antiquities and art objects he had amassed while in Europe. Able to afford the very best, he hired the San Francisco architect Julia Morgan to build his hilltop estate, La Cuesta Encantada, the Enchanted Hill. Construction lasted from 1919 to 1947. At the peak of his fortune in 1935, Randolph Hearst owned 28 major newspapers, 18 magazines, along with several radio stations, movie companies, and news services. Unfortunately, with his ongoing castle construction costs, his vast personal extravagances, and the Great Depression of the 30s changing the world around him, his financial position weakened. He sold faltering newspapers and consolidated others to cut costs. Things continued to slide. In 1937, he was forced to begin selling off some of his art collection, and by 1940, he had lost personal control of his communications empire. That personally wounded him the most. In 1947, he left the castle for the last time to seek medical care. He spent the last years of his life in virtual seclusion. William Randolph Hearst died in August of 1951 at the age of 88. His life became the basis for the movie in 1941, Citizen Kane. At the beginning of the 21st century, the family-owned Hearst Corporation is still one of the largest media companies in the United States. We must take a moment to thank the Hearst family for donating this historic legacy to the California State Parks, for sharing with us the extraordinary story of a remarkable man, and allowing us a chance to walk inside his castle, perched atop his 127-acre Enchanted Hill. As we gaze out over his vast cattle ranch and the blue of the Pacific Ocean, we can only wonder what it was like walking amongst the VIP guests those many years ago. No matter your personal feelings for her controversial life, you must respect a man who could have taken his inheritance, kicked back, and enjoyed a life of leisure while watching the world go by. Instead, he chose to prove his own worth, work long and hard hours, take control of his life, and become someone that others would envy. No doubt the Hearst Castle is an architectural wonder, his art collection exquisite, but the man himself, William Randolph Hearst, was an intellectual genius of the rarest kind. I wish to acknowledge my usage of the informative park guides and brochures, along with the on-site park rangers and docents who helped me gather information needed for this Glimpses presentation. I turn to the Encyclopedia Britannica, Wikipedia, and Dictionary.com as my go-to sources for any additional in-depth information needed. Help sponsor our informative videos by becoming a member of the Persistent Hikers and displaying our commitment to keeping our California parks the top destinations in the nation. Hope you enjoyed this park adventure. Take the time to visit our sponsors and become a monthly donor, assisting us in documenting each of our diverse federal and state California parks. By becoming a member of the Persistent Hikers and wearing our Glimpses patch, you are informing the young generation that we seniors still have the capability, although limited, to enjoy our parks just as much as they can. Until our next California park adventure, happy trails.